Thank you for watching Papaw's Garden Supply video number 7. Today we're going to talk specifically about vertical gardening in small garden plots like this one here. So I'm going to show 3 things, and then we're going to walk over to the garden, over to another spot, and talk about how I do cucumbers. But this is one thing that we utilize, where we take, in this case, a chain link fence or a trellis that you make yourself. And because I'm only using a small area here right next to the fence, I use almost no space because these pole beans literally come up and over the fence. This variety is a new variety that I'm testing. I don't have it out for sale yet. It's something I'll look at for next year. I've got my other tried and true varieties in another spot. But right here, these start growing, they start blooming, and they grow over a long period of time, approximately 2.5 months, that I can pick green beans off of the pole bean. So these come up, and I utilize this space, essentially only about 6 inches wide of the garden next to the fence. Then another method of vertical gardening is where I use these cattle fence cages specifically for the tomato plants. And if you think about it, back when I was a kid, we grew tomatoes. We either staked them or we just let them lay on the ground. And that's okay, that works fine, but it does utilize more space. This is a 20-inch cage, and so consequently I'm taking up 40 inches across and however long, and these come straight up the cage. They're supported really well, they're easy to pick. All of the fruit is off the ground so that I don't get the disease pressure. Same way with the leaves. They don't get the disease pressure because I've mulched underneath of them. They don't get splashing water, which causes diseases. And I can get a tremendous number of tomatoes in a small place. In fact, a 42-inch wide row, 23 feet long, I can put something on the order of 26 tomato plants, which is a tremendous number of tomatoes for anybody, and that's a fairly small area. That's less than 100 square feet. So that's another way. And then the third way of the 4 that I'm utilizing is this one's a small trellis from a cattle panel that's 54 inches tall, and I cut this and bend it. And what I've done is I've planted delicata squash on both sides. These squash will come up over on both ends. I'll probably terminate the end buds to stop them from growing, but essentially I will have about 10 plants in an area that's roughly 42 inches by 6 feet. And to take these same plants and put them out and let them grow, they would cover at least 100 square feet. So I'm utilizing, again, this vertical height to get the plants that the yield that I want in a small garden spot. It also does some other things too, and that is that with these leaves, that as they grow up and over, and I mulch underneath of here, I don't seem to get quite the insect pressure that I would if I've just got them growing out. So, and I can do this with delicata because it's a very small fruit, so it's not very heavy. I couldn't do this with pumpkins. I couldn't do this with melons unless I supported them. But the delicata works really good because that's a very small squash, and it's one a vining squash that I can use a trellis with. Now we're going to stop the camera for just a minute, and we're going to go over to the cucumbers. We're back, and now we're going to look at how I do cucumbers, specifically the straight 8 cucumber that has a very long vine. These cucumbers get at least 8 feet long, and so they utilize an awful lot of garden space, but they're a very good old variety that I like to grow for dill pickle spears. So what I've done is, again, I planted roughly 12 of these on both sides of this trellis, and I took the same type of cattle panel, only made it longer, and then I bent it, and so it's a little higher up this time. And these I have to train a little bit more because they want to go everywhere. So I get them like this one right here. I have to put it up here, and then it'll go on over in the same way with all of these. So you may have to train them a little bit, but one of the things that happens is that getting these plants started early under lights and then planting them out just after the last frost and getting them going up these cages does a multitude of things. Number one, it reduces the insect and disease pressure, because the biggest pest of these particular plants is a little cucumber beetle that transmits a virus when it sucks the juice out of the stem. And when that happens, that virus then wilts the plant, and that's what causes the wilting of cucumbers. So that also corresponds with the tasseling of field corn in farm fields. And they're actually, the insect comes from those fields in most cases. And so what we're doing is we're starting these plants, we're getting them on trellises, they're growing quickly, and they're growing early before the corn ever starts to tassel. So we get a crop of cucumbers before these beetles ever even show up. And with having these up high like this, these cucumbers grow straight down, which means they're a good straight cucumber for sliced or for pickle spears. They're easy to pick, and it just works so much better than if they're on the ground. You don't have to be walking over them. It's just an easy way of doing it. Now, I do this with straight eights. I do not do this with homemade pickles or white wonders because they're a short vine. They don't take up as much space, and they don't like to trellis as well. So you do have to know the variety you're going to use. But the straight eight works great for a trellis, and that's something I highly recommend. But again, I've got 12 plants in roughly a 42-inch by maybe 8 feet. So you're looking at 36 square feet versus, you know, I would have to have at least 100 square feet if I let them just vine. That's it for this segment, video number 7. Take a look at what we've got new at papawsgarden.com. I'm going to have a sale, fall sale coming up here in another 2 weeks. And then the next video, we're going to discuss the wide row planting method again and how that looks now versus when